What's up, True Crime World? You're here with Luminol on the Wall. I'm Bevy.
And I'm Becky. And today's case is about a Crossbow cannibal who is desperate for notoriety and recognition for his crimes. This is the case of Susan Rushworth, Shelley Armitage, and Suzanne Blamires. Listener's discretion is advised.
Hello to all of our LOTW friends and family. And hey, Becky.
Hey, Bev. How's it going on the other side of the table there?
It's going well.
Perfect.
Aside from the fact that we are both slightly hurt. Not our hearts.
No, we're fine there.
Not our psyche.
Nope, we're good.
Our bodies.
Physically.
Failing us.
Our middle-agedness is crept up on us.
Mm-hmm.
Bev, you said you hurt your back.
I hurt my back.
Picking
the
up
same
a
kid
child.
that hit me in the face with his freaking shoe. How I was having a tantrum and I lifted him and
Tweakerson.
tweaked out my back here.
Yep.
And it hurts.
It hurts. But you're on the
Slightly.
mend.
I'm on the mend, hopefully.
You're on the mend.
And you?
I think mine is just purely neglect. If I had to take all my knowledge, figure out an answer, I'd say I have neglected my hip mobility a tiny bit lately.
Mm-hmm.
And I started a new strength program. I didn't hear no pop, crackle, nothing. So I think I'm good in that.
No pop, crackle,
Crunch?
crunch?
Nope.
What the fuck is it?
I don't know. I think it's just neglect on
No,
my
Becky. The Rice Krispie dudes.
snap, crackle, pop.
Oh, and there was no snap, crackle, pop?
And no way, Jose. So I was feeling good after my workout, lifting some heavy weights
Until
the next morning. I was like, holy shit.
I moved my body. I moved it and my hips hurt.
Help me get down the stairs.
I can't get out of bed. Someone lend me the hand. Where's my walker?
All right. I don't know if it was that bad. I am still functional. Just a little slower. I don't need a walker, Bevy.
So we're okay.
Yeah.
But we're definitely nursing some hurts.
Yeah. So as like a responsible adult, do your freaking mobility. If you're feeling tight,
Strengthen your core.
Yeah, do it all.
Yeah.
Don't neglect it like we have recently, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And we work out regularly. This is the
So-
thing. We do it. So if it can happen to us, it can sure should happen to you. So be responsible.
Be responsible.
Be responsible.
Take care of your body.
Yeah, that's right.
Set it up for success.
Yeah, that's the PSA for today.
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention, Bev, her caterpillars, not all of them died.
Yeah, we have 3 currently. I'm going to post a picture of the beautiful butterflies because they have hatched.
They have hatched.
They have.
Perfect. I just thought everyone might want that update after we talked about you guys killing a couple.
And the moldy cage, yeah.
And the moldy cage, yeah. But they're thriving. Some of them.
Yep.
So in case anyone was wondering, rest easy. They're alive.
2 little hairy pillar.
Hairy pillar.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bev, we got a freaking insane case today.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. It has all the things that true crime lovers want to hear about. It has a bit of gore. It has a bit of a chase, cannibalism,
Mm-hmm. It's got all the good stuff.
and a bit of mystery. So we're excited and let's get into it. Today's case takes us to the UK, to the town of Dewsbury, just south of Leeds. In the 19th century, it saw major growth as a milling town, but in the late 1960s and early 70s, it faced a decline and it became a less desirable place to live. This is where the subject of today's case was born. On December 24th, 1969, Stephen Griffiths was born to parents Moira and Stephen Griffiths Sr. Stephen was the first of 3 children. Moira and Stephen Sr., they were average in their finances. They kind of ran in the middle of the pack. But as their 3rd child arrived, it put an even bigger strain on their finances than they thought. And this seemed to negatively impact their marriage. They began fighting lots, and only a few short years after Stephen's siblings were born, his parents divorced. Stephen and his siblings moved away with his mother because she was granted custody. Now, Moira really struggled taking care of her children. They eventually had been approved for social housing. For anyone who doesn't know, it's just a program that finds cheaper housing for those who have low income.
Right.
Because of Moira's financial situation, she did anything to make ends meet. Unfortunately, in 1981, this landed her in the doghouse. She eventually was charged with benefit fraud for falsely claiming government benefits and was sent to jail.
Damn.
During this time, Stephen's father was not as involved as he could have been, but had paid for Stephen and his siblings to attend private school. But the lack of stability through Stephen's childhood seemed to really affect him. When he was a teen, he started drinking and shoplifting. And at the age of 17, he was caught stealing by a store manager. In an attempt to get away, Stephen used a knife to cut the manager. And because of that decision, he was put in youth custody for 3 years.
Wow. That is wild. That's an extreme method to use to get away or like to get out of something. Like, if you were caught stealing, like, that's a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Misdemeanor.
Why cut someone?
Why cut someone just to get away? Like, damn, do you know what he was stealing?
No, I have no idea.
But it doesn't seem like much. Like, at a store, right? Like something you could grab and run.
Yeah.
Nothing like a car
or an
anything.
airplane.
Like, yeah, or an airplane. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, you'd fly that one away, but...
No, you catch me, I cut you.
Yeah, that's the rule if anyone needs to know.
Just kidding. You'll get youth custody for 3 years.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
The consequences are way worse. That's the point we're making, actually.
Yeah, that is the point we're making.
Don't cut anyone.
Don't cut people.
Do you love true crime and travel? Having traveled the world solo the last couple of years and being obsessed with true crime, I found myself researching others who took the same vacations but never made it home. The Last Trip is a true crime podcast covering missing and murdered people that were living their best lives on vacation. I'm your host, Jamie Bevy, and each week I'll bring you on The Last Trip, taking a deep dive into vacation culture and travel spots, tips on staying alive while traveling, and ultimately recreating someone's last days in paradise. What led to their last trip? What are the hard facts? What is the final outcome? And could you be next? David Snedden was a 24-year-old college student from Utah attending Mandarin classes in Beijing when he mysteriously disappeared while hiking Tiger Leaping Gorge. Chinese authorities said he drowned in the gorge, and U.S. authorities agreed, although his body was never found and his parents didn't believe that. 7 years later, out of the blue, they got a phone call from a former U.S. official who had evidence David is still alive. This case sounds like a Hollywood movie, but evidence doesn't lie. So where is David Snedden? Famous rugby player and Celebrity X Factor contestant Levi Davis went missing in Barcelona last year while on a backpacking trip through Europe. Just days before he vanished, he posted a 15-minute video to his Instagram account saying his life was in danger and people were after him. After he disappeared, several theories emerged. But what really happened to Levi Davis? Join me, Jamie Bevy, co-host of the popular true crime series Strictly Stalking, as I embark on a brand new adventure combining true crime and travel. Listen to The Last Trip wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, the next 3 years in youth custody did not do Stephen any good. He had grown a fascination for serial killers and had often fantasized about being one himself.
Yikes.
In 1989, he was finally released. At that point, he had cut ties from his whole family. He didn't want to have anything to do with them. But it wasn't long before Stephen was in police custody again. He was charged with illegal possession of an air pistol. Is that like a...
BB gun?
No, airsoft gun.
Oh, yeah, could be.
Because I've been hit with one of those.
It hurts like hell.
Oh, it is shockingly painful. It came out of nowhere, too. I was doing my makeup. My brother. Our brother.
It came out of nowhere. Someone just like into our home. Well, bam.
No, our brother shot my foot.
Yeah, I know. I remember that.
Okay.
I remember that. I know.
No, here's the scene. I'm sitting there, right up close to my long-ass mirror, doing my makeup.
Yeah.
Like what 14-year-old person does.
Mm-hmm.
My foot is like angled out the door. Axel's over there just being all fucking willy-nilly with his dumb airsoft gun. Weird bullet goes like, I don't know, stray and hits the top of my foot. It stung so bad, but I'm doing my makeup and it's like, what the fuck just hit me?
All of a sudden, mascara's like off the side of your face, eyeliner's like down your cheek.
Yeah.
You're crying your eyes out. Your makeup's now running down your face.
Yeah.
You're cursing out our brother.
Right?
He's running for his fucking life because he knows you're about to just pounce on. I'm just kidding.
No, he came running up to me like, oh my God, don't tell mom, don't tell mom, don't tell mom.
Mom.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hit you. I didn't, I was like, don't get me in more shit.
Yeah, but on the top of the foot too. Oof.
Oh, it hurt.
So it's like, why does this guy have an air pistol?
Well, Bev, he had an air pistol because he would shoot birds, and once he shot them, he would take them back to his home to dissect and study them.
Whoa, this is giving me Dahmer vibes.
It is, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, Dahmer. Now, his delinquent behavior continued, and in 1991, Stephen was sentenced to 2 years in jail for holding a knife to a woman's throat.
What the fuck? His behavior is sure escalating, hey?
It is. It really is. Now, Bev, what's interesting is later that same year in 1991, Stephen was diagnosed as a schizoid psychopath. For anyone that doesn't know what that means off the top of the head, like I did, or didn't know, it means that he had a tendency towards a solitary or sheltered lifestyle, aka he, stopped talking to his family. Makes sense. He could have been secretive, emotional coldness, detachment, and apathy. Disinhibited and egocentric traits. This all could be masked by a superficial charm and the outward appearance of apparent normalcy. Individuals diagnosed may be unable to form intimate attachments to others. So it does make sense as to why he is kind of behaving the way he is a little bit. But either way, that same year he got that diagnosis. Jump in a couple years forward to 1997. When Stephen was 27, he moved into an apartment in Homefield Courts in Bradford. This was just north of his hometown, Dewsbury. This apartment complex was on the edge of Bradford's red light district. Now, Bev, do you know what the red light district is?
I think I do.
You think you do?
Yeah.
Hit me. What do you think it is?
I think it's like an area of town where like prostitutes and like the outer skirts of town or something where more criminal activity happens, and like where prostitutes can kind of roam the streets, or maybe where some sex shops are or something, maybe like massage parlors. I don't know. Kind of seems like it's hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but it's just like where more like delinquent behaviors take place.
100%, Bev.
Oh, look at me.
I mean, you said it in many words, but I think the gist that you're touching on is the red light district.
Oh,
good for you.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. Now, arguably, Stephen's life got off to a rocky start, but despite his delinquency, he made it to Leeds University, where he took psychology and graduated with a degree. He even graduated with first-class honors, which is really good. And in June of 2009, Stephen had attended Bradford University to complete his PhD, with the topic being homicide in an industrial city. The specifics of his dissertation was homicide in Bradford from 1847 to 1899.
Interesting. So, without knowing the rest of the story, you might assume that Stephen is now kind of taking his interests in homicide, serial killers, and applying it to something good, gaining his PhD. You could assume that. You might assume that.
You might assume that.
Although we know this ain't fucking true, but...
Yeah, you'd be dead wrong if that's what you're thinking, Bev.
It's very interesting that he went down this path initially.
I know, like to go as far as getting his PhD.
Right.
Kind of incredible, right?
It is incredible, actually.
Well, his education is incredible, but his time in university, he was still not the greatest guy, we'll say.
Okay.
So while he lived in that same apartment we talked about just before.
Near the red light district?
Yeah. He had 2 different relationships with women. Both were absolutely volatile. His first relationship, the woman said she went to his apartment and freaked out because everything was covered in plastic.
Oh, yeah.
Can I get a Dexter vibe? Yeah.
Dexter vibe.
No, seriously.
Yeah, no, really, though. It's like, why is your house covered in plastic? You're either a really bad germaphobe or you're a psycho who wants to murder me and doesn't want blood to get on your shit.
That's right. I mean, on the third option, you could also be like prepping to take down your popcorn ceiling.
No, that's fair. Renovations. Yeah.
Like that's
good point. I missed that one.
For real. However, she got a pretty terrible vibe and she actually made an excuse to leave and call off the relationship.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's how bad of a vibe she ended the relationship.
And I mean, mix it with the fact that the relationship itself was volatile. It paints a pretty creepy ass picture.
Yeah, she's like, I'd be silly not to end this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his second girlfriend was severely controlled and abused by Stephen. He forced her to cut off contact with her friends and family. And when she eventually escaped that relationship, Stephen had harassed and stalked her for years.
Damn.
Like the voicemails he left for her, so nasty and scary.
Damn, Becky.
Yeah.
That's creepy. It's so funny how I had mentioned earlier that, like, from the outside looking in, you could assume that he's, like, used his background and his interests for good. But then you kind of pair that with his, what was the diagnosis that he got? I'm just going to go back here for a quick moment. The schizoid psychopath, where, you know, his, all of those, like, secretiveness, emotional coldness, and all that can be masked by superficial charm and the outward appearance of normalcy. It's like, well, maybe that's more what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you really look at his, like, life outside of the, like, facade that the public would see, it's masked with, like, abuse, volatility, etc. Right?
Yes.
Interesting.
Well, after those relationships ended, Stephen seemed to develop a hatred for women. This had all started with his mother. When she had gotten arrested for fraud, he felt that she had abandoned him and created a deep hatred and anger
towards
that progressed.
Right, his mom and then to women in general.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was around this same time Stephen had started to describe himself as a misanthrope. This is a person who dislikes humankind and avoids human society. That's one sure of a lonely way to live.
Absolutely it is. I know this is really weird, and I'm not saying that Eminem is like this, but remember in his movie, And Fuck the Free World, I'm just thinking, I just got the picture of like
screaming, fuck the free world.
Screaming, fuck the free world.
Yeah.
Fuck the free, and his fingers up, just like.
And they're all like, their arms are going,
going like some type
exactly.
Of fucking.
I mean, slightly different topic, but yeah, it's kind of like.
No, it's totally different, but all I got was like, and fuck the free world.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So you pair this misanthrope with his schizoid psychopath diagnosis, and it really started to isolate himself. He went deep into the online world, creating an online persona on MySpace as Ven Pariah. His bio on that platform was a misanthrope who brought hate into heaven. Which I don't think you can do that, guy.
You can't do that.
You are ill-informed.
But geez.
That's where his head's at. He also spent a ton of time on forums for local punk music, one titled Homicide Massacre, which, let's be real, if it's just music, that could mean absolutely nothing. But he was also viewing violent porn sites on the regular, and his apartment was filled with novels about the most notorious serial killers. So you can kind of paint a picture of where his mental state is at. He enjoys violent fantasies and porn. He is isolating himself. He has a really negative view of humankind, and he had created a dark web persona. When you put this all together, it becomes very concerning. Now, I'm going to switch gears a smidge because there are obviously victims in this case, and we're going to start talking about them. So on June 22nd, 2009, police became alerted of a missing person. 43-year-old Bradford resident Susan Rushworth. She had left home to get her methadone prescription and never returned. Susan had come from a really loving family and she had a good upbringing. When she was young, she got married, had 2 kids. The marriage didn't work out, and by the age of 30, she was divorced. Shortly after her divorce, Susan got a new boyfriend and had a 3rd child. This new boyfriend was not a good influence on her because he was a heroin addict and introduced Susan to heroin herself. Her addiction became intense and expensive and eventually forced Susan into prostitution to feed her habit. She often worked just outside of the red light district. On June 22nd, 2009, when Susan didn't come home after the methadone clinic, her mother became really worried. She tried calling her, but no answer. Her phone had been shut off. At that point, her mom called the police to report her daughter missing. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. She had completely vanished. Months later, on April 26, 2010, 31-year-old Bradford resident Shelley Armitage went missing. She had many similarities to Susan. She, too, had a good upbringing and a loving family. At the age of 16, Shelley started partying and drinking, then eventually turned to drugs, and just like Susan, began prostituting to support her habit. Shelley hid her career as a working girl from her family and friends. On April 26th, Shelley ran into her parents at a shop in Bradford. They had a brief conversation and parted ways. At 10:10 p.m., Shelley was caught on CCTV camera on Sunridge Road, likely looking for a client. This was the last time she was seen alive. And when her family didn't hear from her and realized her phone had been shut off or damaged, they reported her missing. 3 weeks later, on May 21st, 2010, another woman was reported missing in Bradford. 36-year-old Suzanne Blamires. Suzanne also grew up in a good home. She was a bubbly girl with lots of friends around her. After high school, she trained to become a nurse, but she also loved going to local raves and partying. At those raves, she was introduced to drugs, and at first it was a recreational thing for her until it wasn't. Then she had progressed into a full-blown addiction. Despite her family's efforts to keep her clean, it had completely failed, and by her mid-20s, her addiction was all-consuming, and she began prostituting to feed her and her boyfriend's pricey addiction. Suzanne's boyfriend became concerned when she didn't return home on the 22nd of May. Her phone was off, just like the other two women, and so he notified her family and reported her missing to the police. At this point, the police realized they have 3 missing women in less than a year. They all worked as prostitutes in the red light district, and they were all heroin addicts. Surely, Bev, there are too many coincidences for these to be unrelated.
Absolutely, eerily similar, in fact.
Yeah, eerily. Well, 3 days after Suzanne was reported missing, a call came in from a small town just north of Bradford called Shipley. In the early morning of May 25th, a man walking his dog sees a black duffel bag in the river air. He decides to investigate as one would. The bag was heavy, approximately 45 to 50 pounds, but he pulled it out of the river and looked inside.
Ooh.
And what was in there was a decapitated head with a crossbow bolt, which is just like a small arrow, and a knife still lodged in the skull.
Holy shit.
The head was beyond recognition, and obviously the police were called.
No kidding. Have you ever seen like a garbage bag on the side of the road and wondered?
Is there a body in there?
Is there?
Every time I see one.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, I bet there is one.
But like the last thing you actually expect to see
is a dead body.
Or a decapitated head. Like what the heck?
Yeah. We all have those sinister thoughts, but we don't actually
think that it's true.
Yeah. So at this point, Bev, we know that the police were investigating the missing person reports of Susan, Shelley, and Suzanne.
Yes.
Could this head be one of those women? Now, because the head is so unrecognizable, they have absolutely no idea who it belongs to.
Right.
Or belong to.
Exactly.
But what is crazy about this finding is that a couple days before, on May 22nd, a caretaker from the Homefield Court complex in Bradford had called police to inform them of a disturbing security video he had found from the complex. The caretaker had been going through the security footage from the night before. This was something he would do on the regular. He was looking for vandalism and crime. The area was a little seedy, being on the outskirts of the red light district.
Fair.
And at 2:30 a.m., the exterior surveillance camera sees one of the residents and Suzanne Blamires walk up to the entrance of the apartments. The resident is Stephen Griffiths. The camera follows Stephen and Suzanne into the building, onto the elevator, and into Stephen's flat. It all seemed like a pretty cordial interaction. But only 3 minutes later, the camera sees Suzanne run out of Stephen's apartment, with him tailing her. He is armed with a crossbow. He takes aim and shoots at Suzanne. He barely misses her. Suzanne then runs off camera, where Stephen catches up to her rather quickly. He tackles her to the ground and just off camera aims and shoots Suzanne point blank in the head with his crossbow. He is then seen dragging Suzanne's body back into his apartment. Moments later, Stephen walks back out towards the camera, brandishing his crossbow and waving it around and flipping off the cameras with his middle fingers. Then he casually walks back into his apartment.
That is so fucked. Number one, literally fuck the free world.
Yeah.
And how scary is that for that girl? And not only that, but he is now seen killing someone on camera. What the fuck? I was going to say earlier, oh, well, look, now he like has a connection to a missing woman, but it's like, no, he's literally seen murdering her.
Yeah, a bit more than a connection. Just a smidge more.
Just a smidge, yeah, but holy shit, that is terrifying.
Exactly right. And because he flips off the camera and he's showing his crossbow, he obviously knows that this murder was caught on camera.
Yeah.
I personally do wonder how he's feeling, not because I really give two shits about what he's feeling. However, you do something illegal, it's caught on camera. How do you feel? What is your first instinct?
Like, do you feel panicked or?
I would. I'd be like, oh my God, there was a camera. Holy shit, I'm fucked.
Yeah, but like him flipping it off kind of seems like, no, he's like,
I don't care.
I don't give a shit. Watch me.
I did what I did.
I did what I did. Yeah, like, holy crap.
Exactly. I can assume, though, his intention was not to kill Suzanne on camera.
No, I'm sure he intended to kill her in his apartment where he took her, right?
Yeah.
She just probably got spooked.
Ran away.
When he picked up a fucking crossbow and aimed it at her.
Yeah, she's like, GTFO.
Like, yeah, like trying to run for her life, literally.
Yeah. And he says, not today.
Not today,
Suzanne. So at this point, he must know it is only a matter of time before he gets caught. Or at the very least, someone finds this incriminating evidence and he's going to jail.
Yes, of course. So what does he do after that, right? Like, I would think that a person would try and somehow get rid of the evidence.
Smash the camera.
But I'm guessing given him flipping off the camera and whatnot, that's probably not what he does. Like, he almost seems proud of what he did, right? So I don't know that he would try and hide it.
No, he does virtually nothing to cover it up, Bev. In fact, an hour after, around 3:30 a.m., he is seen leaving his apartment, drinking a beer. He raises his drink to the camera like a cheers almost.
Ew.
And then he's off.
What the fuck? Off where?
He leaves, and just a couple minutes later, he actually is seen attempting to bring another woman back to his place.
No fucking way.
Yes.
As if he hasn't had enough murdering for a night.
Well, exactly. I'm sitting here thinking, like, is he like, it's only a matter of time before I'm caught. Let's see how many I can kill.
Right.
Or is it just like
that's
his
what
compulsion?
I think it is.
I think so too. But for whatever reason, this woman stops at the front door of Stephen's apartments and they talk briefly and then she walks away.
Bad vibes.
It must be, right? Now, right after that, Stephen goes out again, I assume to look for another woman, but he returns empty-handed at 4:30 a.m.
All by himself.
All by himself.
Shit. So he's unsuccessful. I would think he's like, oh, well, the jig is up, but I still want to murder people.
Mm-hmm.
Let me do what I can.
Yeah.
That's messed right up.
It is, right?
He's on the fucking prowl.
He's on the prowl.
I wonder if it's like after he murdered somebody, like I wonder if the next girl who left was like, you're giving off like intense vibes. Like I'm sure after you kill someone and that's something that you desire to do, it's a fantasy of yours. Like I would assume you, like, you know, like a bad salesman.
Yeah.
Like you give off like creepy vibes, like come to my house, come to my house. I have a crossbow. Oh. Did I say that? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Giving off desperate and creepy vibes.
Hell yeah, her intuition's like, I want none of that.
I want nothing to do with you.
Nothing to do with it. On that same footage, a little later,
after he comes home empty-handed.
Yeah, Stephen is seen carrying bags out of his apartment, which we can assume are probably Suzanne or evidence.
Right, yeah.
Now, when the police actually sit down and look at this footage, they recognize the severity of it all and act immediately.
Good.
On May 24th, 2010, police execute a search warrant on Stephen's home with a barrage of 22 officers. Stephen was arrested right away, so this is even before the head was found in the river.
Holy crap, so they already have him in custody when they find this bag.
Yes.
Shit.
So it was noted that when he was handcuffed, he yelled out, "I am Osama bin Laden." I know, what? You crazy man. At no point in time did he ever give a reason for yelling that. So what was the point of it? I don't know, Bev. I'm personally thinking that he's trying to set himself up for an insanity plea or just,
I think that's a good point.
Some verbal diarrhea.
I don't know. Like with his weird, fucked up fantasies, you never know. But I think what you just said is a very interesting point. Like, he had time to know that this arrest was probably coming, hence the, like, flipping off the camera and whatnot. So he, like, knew it was coming. He could have had time to think up devise a plan to kind of help him when he did.
To make him seem crazy.
Get caught. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. Sorry, I'm laughing because out of all the things he probably could have done or said, like, why was that your choice? I guess in 2010?
Yeah. I mean, the timing
maybe
of it all is
relevant.
A little bit more relevant than right now. No, that's fair. That is a fair point.
Yeah, but I just have to chuckle because it seems so silly. Like, that's random. That's what you chose to say to make yourself maybe seem insane. Sure, let's go with it, you nut.
Yeah, it's just so weird.
Well, the police at that point, they just decide to confront Stephen with the security and CCTV footage. Mm-hmm. And kind of shocking, I was surprised by this. He confesses to killing Susan Rushworth, Shelley Armitage, and Susan Blamires.
Whoa.
He just straight up confesses.
And it seems like he wants the notoriety of it all. He's so arrogant with everything he did, flipping off the camera, fuck everything. He has a fascination with serial killers. He obviously wants to be seen as one himself, right? So it just seems fitting that he would just admit to it.
Yeah, he for sure wants some recognition.
Yeah.
So even though he admitted to killing these 3 women, they obviously need evidence to support that. And they obviously search through his apartment and they find evidence. They found blood of all 3 victims throughout his apartment, with the concentration being the bathtub and the stove.
The stove. Like, the bathtub makes sense. I'm sure he dismembered them.
Yep.
But the stove.
What? Like, what? The stove? What you saying? What you talking about, Willis? The stove? He confesses to cooking and eating parts of Susan and Shelley's bodies, but Suzanne, he ate raw.
Holy fuck.
And I wonder if he ate it raw because he's desperate time-wise.
Oh, good point, because she would have been the last one.
Yes, but in a kind of crazier thought, maybe he wanted to try it raw instead of cooked. Maybe he had advanced and just needed to try it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but either way, it's fucking horrific what he has done to these women, hey?
For sure. I'm honestly just a wee bit shocked how forthcoming he is with what he has done.
Yeah, but like I said, I really think it's the notoriety of it all. I truly believe that. I mean, he did a fucking PhD on homicides where he lived. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I want to be added to the list. I'm obsessed with this, and I want to be known for what I've done. Like, I want there to be no qualms about it.
Let it be known.
Let it be known, which is...
I, Stephen Griffith, is a savage killer.
And cannibal, like.
Ew.
Damn.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of that, to be quite frank. And that just, I think killers like that seek that notoriety and that fame from it all, are like the most fucked up of them all.
Oh, I agree. Especially because you always seem, it always seems, sorry.
Do you know something that no one else does, Becky?
Yes.
Do you know of my secret life?
Yeah.
No.
Bev's not secret. She's honestly too honest. Sometimes you want to slap her and be like, shut up, Bev. Don't tell everyone secret.
Bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, she has no secret life. No, but in all seriousness, I do think people who kill for the notoriety and the recognition are some of the most gruesome criminals because their desire for that notoriety supersedes their regard for human life.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Becky.
Thanks. So now, Bev, we know that they have Stephen's confession. They have the CCTV footage, the security footage. They have the evidence from his apartment. And now they have found Stephen's phone and they have evidence from there. They had found it on a train where Stephen left it or lost it. They're not sure. But this phone contained photos and videos of the horrible things that he had done to these women before he murdered and dismembered them. It was noted he commentated the videos and gave himself the title Bloodbath Artist.
Holy fudge, man.
Like, he's titling himself.
This reminds me of the June Lynn case. It really does.
Oh.
Right? Where he videoed it and he's like, I don't know, just enjoying the process, like making almost like a movie scene for himself. Like the similarities between the June Lynn case and this one, to me, for like the murderers, is really, really eerily similar. Like the notoriety of it, you know, the videos, like.
Yeah. Good correlation between the two, Bev. Well, the detectives find even more photos and video evidence on Stephen's computer. One photo depicted Shelley Armitage tied up naked in his bathtub with the words, "My sex slave," spray painted on her back.
Holy fuck. That's so sad, Becky.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? Now, to connect Stephen and his apartment to the River Air, the detectives find CCTV video showing Stephen on the train with the black duffel bag that was found in the river. So they know that this decapitated head is one of Stephen's victims. In addition,
like he literally brings a decapitated head on the train.
Yeah, like no one knows it's there. What a strange feeling that must be. Everyone's just doing their normal lives and he's like, oh, I'm carrying a head in this fucking bag. Normal. Not.
Wow.
In addition, Bev, there was also 159 dismembered body parts removed from the river that belonged to Shelley Armitage and Suzanne Blamires. So he really took his time dismembering his victims. Like in some of the cases where we have the dismemberment, it's like 5 or 6 pieces, like head, torso, arm, maybe hand or foot, leg. That's about it, right?
I think it might be different with the cannibal aspect, right? Because I don't know. Like he's not just dismembering it to dispose of it, right?
Yeah. He's eating.
He's trying to find good pieces to eat.
Like bite-sized pieces.
Like gross. That's fucked up.
Exactly. And on these pieces of our victims and the weapons found in the duffel bags, detectives found DNA and a fingerprint that belonged to Stephen.
Wow.
I know. Talk about like full circle, bringing everything together, connecting everything. Like he did it.
There's no question.
There's no question. Unfortunately, Susan Rushworth's body, his very first victim, her remains were never found. So that is a little sad, but at least they can connect him to the other two 100%. Now, what's really intriguing is that while Stephen was giving his interview, he had said that he had killed more women, but he wouldn't offer up any names or any details about those victims. Detectives also could not find any other evidence saying that he had other victims. So there was no blood, DNA, nothing like that.
Which, when I hear you tell me that, all I can think of is the fact that he wants notoriety to have killed more. And if we really think to his actions after he had killed Suzanne, of trying to, and after seeing like, noticing that he was caught on CCTV footage, the fact that he went out and tried to get multiple more victims after that, it kind of makes me wonder if he's saying that to kind of paint this picture of like an infamous killer, you know?
Yeah. How many victims
like
do I have?
He had wanted to have more victims, so he's trying to lie about it to make it seem like I was more notorious than the 3 victims that you found. Like, I could be wrong in saying that. Maybe he did kill more women. Maybe. But when I put those like tidbits together, I'm like,
Are you lying, buddy?
Are you lying, buddy? Yeah.
Well, and I do think that you could be onto something, Bevy, because he was so forthcoming with the information about the other women. And now he's clamming up and like, but I'm not going to tell you. I killed more, but I'm not going to tell you.
Right. Why wouldn't he say who they were?
Right? Like for full notoriety as we're
full
talking
disclosure.
About.
So yeah, it makes me think that he didn't have more victims, but he wished that he had.
Well, what's really sad actually, Bev, a stat that I found is that in the UK over the last decade, it is estimated that 60 to 140 prostitutes have been murdered. But only 25 to 30% of these killings are solved. And the reason why that is because people who often utilize prostitute services or are involved in that community are a little more hush-hush about it. They don't want to be seen as related to that industry.
That makes sense.
You know, it's illegal.
And it has a stigma attached to it, right?
It does. So oftentimes people don't want to come forward with the information that they do have. So I think maybe on the flip side, it is absolutely possible that he could have killed other women that were never found. And maybe if they had, there could have been no evidence that related to him. But you make that really valid point about the notoriety. So I'm not too sure, but it's totally possible.
Either way. Yeah, we just want to bring out the possibilities.
Exactly. So we're at a point in the story now. They have a ton of evidence against Stephen. They obviously have his confession, all the video, DNA, fingerprints, all the good stuff. So it's time for Stephen to appear in court. And when he first did appear in court, he gave his name to the judge as the Crossbow Cannibal.
Again, speaking to his need for notoriety, right?
He gave himself a nickname. And with that, Stephen's trial date was set for November 16th, 2010. But in December of that same year, Stephen Griffiths decided to plead guilty to 3 counts of murder and was given 3 life sentences without parole. That mofo is staying in jail forever.
Nice. Thank God.
Now, while incarcerated, Stephen attempted suicide 4 separate times, but had been saved by prison workers each time. He also went on a 120-day hunger strike and refused to have contact with anyone.
You know what's interesting about this is like our brother works in that field, and he has noted that it's common for inmates to go on hunger strikes.
I always find it so funny when I hear of that, be like a prisoner going on a hunger strike. I wouldn't give 2 shits if I'm the warden, be like, okay, cool.
Don't eat.
Yeah, let us know when you're ready and we'll still give you food.
But it's obvious that like he's not happy about being in prison, right? Like he wants the easy way out. Obviously it's tough for him. And I kind of like, good. I want it to be tough for you. We all do, because what you did was savage.
Yeah. That's why we feel a sense of gratification when people get sentenced to jail for life.
Yeah, exactly.
Because your life will suck now. You do not get the privileges of freedom.
That the free world gets.
Maybe
you shouldn't have flipped us off, buddy.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have fucked the free world so hard.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, God.
Now, what's really, I find absolutely crazy about this case, Bev, is that the 2 years leading up to the murders, Stephen was being watched by the police. He had gained hunting weapons, which the police had seized. I'm not sure which ones, so were they completely outrageous or were they just unsure of him?
Regardless, but he was on their radar.
Yeah, so they were seized. He was on their radar. And he was also seen reading books on dismemberment.
Holy shit.
Yes, this caused the police a lot of concern. However, it is not against the law.
Obviously, these books exist.
Yeah, but it's not against the law to read them, right? The police had wanted to serve Stephen with an ASBO, which is an antisocial behavior order. Anyone over the age of 10 can receive it. And what it is, or what it does, it orders the courts to enforce someone to stop a certain type of behavior or stay away from an area or person. So it's like, we don't like what you're doing, stop that, or if you continue on, you're going to go to jail for breaking this order.
Wow.
Yeah. But unfortunately, his actions didn't quite qualify for this order to be applied to Stephen. So what the police did instead is they contacted the housing association that managed the complex where Stephen lived and convinced them to upgrade their CCTV cameras in the building. The police and housing both believed it was only a matter of time before Stephen committed a major crime.
My mind is freaking blown.
Yeah.
There are so many times where we can say about police work where it's like, wow, you really fucked this up.
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't do a good job. But I would say that the police in this circumstance almost did everything they could
without breaking the law.
Yeah, and thanks to them, like, if not for that CCTV footage and the quality of it, like, I'm not saying that he wouldn't have got caught, but ultimately
he might have not.
He might have not. Like, that was a huge piece of evidence from the case, obviously.
Yeah.
So I would have to say kudos and props to the police department in this instance. Like,
for taking
that measure. You saw some sketchy ass behavior from an individual in society who had a criminal record, and you kept your eye out and did what you could, what was in your realm of power to do to prevent something from happening, albeit it didn't prevent something, but it did bring this man to justice.
And pretty quickly, too.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is now that I'm thinking of that caretaker who analyzed the video, I wonder if that was part of the reason why he was to analyze the video every day.
Just looking for sketchy shit going on.
Yeah, like including you have someone
Steven. We're nervous about in your complex.
Let's keep an eye out what his actions are.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I'm like, I wonder if that's why. Not just because of the area, but because of frickin' Steven.
Because of frickin' Steven, man.
Steven.
God. Yeah, this case is absolutely wild. This guy just gives me bad vibes. Like, same with Luca Magnotta. Like, just the brazen actions of these two individuals and that need for, like, recognition that just seems so appalling. Like, it really makes me feel gross inside. Mm-hmm. And I just feel for these women who obviously were going through a hard time.
Yeah, in a super vulnerable position and time in their life.
And some person took advantage of that, and my heart just, like, soars out to the families who have had to deal with this loss. It's really sad.
No, it totally is, Bev. Well, on that note, that is all I have for you today, so thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing. And just your weekly reminder to download our weekly episodes, follow us on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, and give us a follow on our social medias. You can find us at Luminol on the Wall. Can't wait till next week.